You wake up with the best intentions. Tomorrow, I'll wake up early. Tomorrow, I'll change. But when the alarm hits, you snooze it again and again, and suddenly it's 9 a.m. Your day feels rushed, your brain feels foggy, and deep down, there's this quiet frustration. Why can't I stay consistent? Here's the truth no one tells you. It's not your discipline that's broken, it's your system. Because right now, your mornings are random, unstructured, reactive. You wake up and life just starts happening to you. But imagine this. You wake up at 6 a.m., not because you have to, but because your mind feels clear. No resistance, no chaos, just focus. And within the first hour, you've already done more than most people do all day. Sounds unrealistic? That's what most people think. But there's a specific system, a simple one, that rewires how your brain starts the day. And once you understand it, waking up early stops feeling hard and starts feeling automatic. In this video, I'll break down that exact 6 a.m. system and why it quietly turns ordinary people into unstoppable ones. Let me ask you something. Why do mornings feel so hard, even when you really want to change? You set the alarm the night before with full motivation. You even imagine yourself waking up early, feeling fresh, starting strong. But then morning comes. The alarm rings. And suddenly, everything changes. Your body feels heavy. Your mind starts negotiating. Just 5 more minutes. I'll start tomorrow. I didn't sleep well anyway. And before you even realize it, you've hit snooze. Again. So what happened? Did your discipline just disappear overnight? No. Here's the mistake most people make. They think mornings are a test of willpower. They believe if they were just strong enough, they'd jump out of bed instantly. But that's like trying to drive a car with no fuel and blaming the engine for not working. The real problem is much simpler and much deeper. Your brain is waking up into confusion. No clear direction, no structure, no first step. So the moment you wake up, your brain has to decide what to do. And that's where everything breaks. Because early in the morning, your brain is at its weakest point for decision making. It doesn't want complexity, it wants ease. So what does it do? It chooses the simplest option available. Stay in bed, avoid effort, delay the day. Now think about it like this. Yes, imagine turning on your laptop and instantly 10 tabs open at once. Emails, videos, messages, random tasks. Everything loads at the same time. What happens? It freezes, slows down, becomes useless. That's exactly what your brain feels like every morning. Too many decisions, too much friction, no clear starting point. So instead of moving forward, it shuts down. And here's the part most people don't realize. This doesn't just ruin your morning. It quietly shapes your entire day. You wake up late, you feel behind, you rush, you lose focus, you start reacting instead of leading, and that feeling stays with you all day. But now, here's where things shift. What if you removed all of that? What if your morning had zero decisions? No thinking, no debating, no what should I do? Just one clear step, already decided. Let's imagine waking up and your body just follows a path. No resistance, no confusion, just movement. That's the foundation of the 6 a.m. system. It doesn't rely on motivation. It doesn't demand discipline. It simply removes the need to think. And when you remove thinking, you remove friction. And when you remove friction, you create flow. And once you experience that, even once, you'll realize something powerful. Mornings were never hard. They were just unclear. In the next part, I'll show you the first step of this system and why it has nothing to do with waking up early. Here's something most people completely overlook. They think the battle starts at 6 a.m. It doesn't. It starts the night before. Let me show you what I mean. Picture this. It's late at night. You're lying in bed, phone in hand, one video turns into 5. 5 turns into 20. You tell yourself, just one more, I'll sleep after this. Next thing you know, it's way past your planned bedtime. No plan, no preparation, no clear intention. You just crash. Now fast forward to morning. The alarm rings, and suddenly, waking up feels like climbing a mountain. Why? Because you didn't prepare for it. It's like showing up to a race without tying your shoes. You can still run, but everything feels harder than it should. That's exactly what most people do every single night. They scroll, they delay sleep, they go to bed mentally scattered, and then expect a perfect, focused morning. It doesn't work like that, because your brain doesn't just shut off when you sleep. It processes, it resets, it prepares, but here's the catch, it needs closure to do that properly. As if your mind goes to sleep in chaos, yeah, it says it wakes up in chaos. So here's the first rule of the 6 a.m. system. Win the night and the morning becomes easy. Now, don't overcomplicate this. This isn't about a long, strict nighttime routine. You don't need 10 habits. You don't need perfection. You need one thing: clarity. Before you sleep, you ask yourself a simple question: what is the first thing I'll do when I wake up? That's it. One action, not a full schedule, not a long to do list, just one clear step. Maybe it's I'll wake up and drink a glass of water, or I'll wake up and sit at my desk. Simple, specific, decided. Now let's break this down. Why does something so small work so well? Because your brain hates uncertainty. The moment you wake up and have to figure things out, resistance kicks in. But when the decision is already made, there's nothing to think about. I just follow through. Think about these two scenarios. First one, you wake up, staring at the ceiling, thinking, should I get up? What should I do first? Maybe I'll check my phone. Second one, you wake up and your body already knows. No thinking, just action. Which one feels lighter? Which one feels easier? Exactly. That tiny decision the night before removes the biggest barrier in the morning. It turns confusion into direction, chaos into flow. And here's what happens next. Waking up early stops feeling like a fight. It starts feeling automatic, like brushing your teeth, like walking, no internal debate, just movement. But here's the part most people miss. Even with this clarity, there's still one critical step that determines whether your morning builds momentum or falls apart. What? And almost everyone skips it. So you actually wake up at 6 a.m., no snooze, no delay, you're up. Now what? This is the exact moment where most people mess everything up. They think, all right, this is it, time to be productive. So they try to do everything at once. Workout, study, journal, plan the day, maybe even check messages quickly. And within 5 to 10 minutes, their brain feels overloaded, heavy, slow, resistant. And then comes the thought, this is too much. So they stop, not because they're lazy, but because they tried to go from 0 to 100 instantly. Let me show you a better way. The 6 a.m. system doesn't start with intensity. It starts with just 10 minutes. That's it. I call this the activation phase. And this part is powerful, but most people completely ignore it. Think about going to the gym. You don't walk in and immediately lift your heaviest weight. You warm up, you stretch, you prepare your muscles. Why? Because jumping straight into intensity leads to injury or failure. Your brain works the exact same way. When you wake up, your mind is not fully online yet. It's slow, sensitive, half asleep, and if you demand too much too quickly, it pushes back. So instead of forcing productivity, you ease into it. Here's exactly how it looks. First 2 minutes, drink water. Simple, but important. It wakes your body up, signals your brain. We're starting. Next 3 minutes, light movement. Stretch, walk around, loosen up. Nothing intense, just enough to shake off that sleepy feeling. Then the final 5 minutes, you sit down quietly and you either breathe or look at that one task you decided the night before. No pressure to complete it. You just reconnect with it. That's it. No rush, no expectations, just activation. Now here's where things get interesting. At first, it feels almost too simple. You might even think, is this really doing anything? But then something shifts. You've already moved. You've already started. And suddenly, continuing doesn't feel so hard anymore. Because here's the truth most people ignore. Starting is the hardest part. Always. Once you're in motion, your brain stops resisting. It starts cooperating. Think of it like pushing a car. At the beginning, it feels impossible. Heavy, stuck, frustrating. But the moment it starts rolling, it gets easier with every second. That's exactly what these 10 minutes do. They take you from stuck to moving, from resistance to flow. And once that happens, doing more doesn't feel forced anymore. It feels natural, like you're already in it. But here's the catch. Momentum is powerful, but if you don't guide it, you'll lose it just as quickly. And that's where the next step changes everything. Now you're awake, you've moved your body, your mind is on. This is it, the most powerful part of the entire system, the focus window. And if you get this part right, everything changes. But here's the problem. Most people destroy this moment without even realizing it. They reach for their phone. Just for a second, notifications, messages, maybe a quick scroll, and suddenly 30 minutes are gone. Let me ask you honestly, have you ever picked up your phone to check one thing and somehow ended up deep in random videos? Yeah, that's not a lack of discipline. That's your brain being hijacked at its most vulnerable state. Because in the morning, your brain is highly sensitive. It's like soft clay. Your entire day feels different, lighter, calmer. You're not chasing the day anymore. You've already taken control. You've already won. And that small win creates a quiet confidence that carries into everything else you do. But here's the thing, even this powerful system can fall apart if one final piece is missing. And this last step is what turns all of this into something that actually lasts. Here's the part most people never realize. And honestly, it's the only part that actually matters. This system isn't about waking up at 6 a.m. So it's about who you become because you wake up at 6 a.m. Let me explain. Most people are stuck at the surface level. They focus on actions. Wake up early. Be productive. Stay disciplined. But those things don't last. You can force yourself for a few days, maybe even a week, but eventually you fall back. Why? Because actions without identity feel like effort, and effort doesn't last forever. But identity is different. Because once you start seeing yourself in a certain way, your behavior begins to match it automatically. Let's make this real. Imagine someone who always says, I'm just not a morning person. Now, even if they try to wake up early, their brain resists because it conflicts with how they see themselves. Now, flip that. After a few days of following the system, waking up, moving, the focusing, something subtle starts to change. You stop saying, I'm trying to wake up early, and you start thinking, I'm someone who wakes up early. That one shift, it changes everything because now you're not forcing a habit, you're expressing who you are. And when that happens, the struggle disappears. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wake up and debate it. You don't need motivation. You don't say, let me build discipline to brush my teeth today. You just do it automatically. Why? Because it's part of your identity. It's who you are. That's where the system is taking you. Not to better mornings, but to a stronger version of yourself. A version that doesn't rely on motivation. A version that doesn't negotiate with comfort. A version that shows up consistently, even when it's hard. Let me give you a simple example. But there will be days when you feel tired. Days when the bed feels warmer. Days when everything in you says, skip today. Old you would listen. Old you would delay. But the new version of you, the one who's built this identity, they don't argue. They don't overthink. They just move. Because that's who they are now. And every time you follow through, you reinforce that identity. You prove something to yourself, not to anyone else, to yourself. I can show up. I can follow through. I can do hard things. And that proof builds confidence. Real confidence. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that changes how you walk, think, and act. And that's what makes you feel limitless. Not the time on the clock, not the routine itself, but the person you become because you chose to show up anyway.